And our first value is people first service. So you're going to see that in how we communicate and how we're responding and how we're training our teams, that we need to be having genuine connections with residents.
This is very, very impressive because then you know that everybody's heart is in the right place.
Because of technology, their expectations of the quickness of the interaction has changed. The other unique side of that, though, is they still want a human connection.
I don't think so anybody can describe it any better than this.
The other thing is just something that we're working with our teams a lot on is authenticity in marketing.
That itself shows the brand architecture that B.HOMS is really trying to build.
We are still, I think, in such the early stages of really creating that B.HOM brand. And so right now our main focus is that, like, we have got to get our basics right.
I think basics are damn right. Hey everyone, we are really proud to welcome Shelby from B.HOMS. So anybody who knows Shelby, they know that she has had an illustrious career across student housing from the last more than a decade now. And Shelby, you come from the legacies of Greystar and then stepping into this amazing and prestigious role at B.HOMS. What is this experience like? Break it open for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thank you so much for having me on today. I'm super grateful to be here. It's honestly been an unbelievable ride. I feel like I pinch myself daily to be sitting here. I started my career, obviously, like you mentioned, back in 2014. So it has been over a decade, which is kind of crazy. I started off as a CA, like most people do, right? You're just a part-time student worker. You just have a job to get by. And I never thought that this would turn into my career. I was with EDR originally, and then Greystar acquired EDR back in 2018. And making that leap, after you've been at one company for so long is so scary. But I am so thankful to be here at B.HOM. I'm excited about what we're creating and what we're building. I am really thankful for the people that I sit beside and all the opportunities like this one that I'm getting. So yeah, it's an unbelievable thing that I'm super blessed for.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when people talk about their experiences, something that you have highlighted so much, and it is about the gratitude that everybody shows when they reach to a level where they can help other people in the industry. And that is something really coming across from your experience and how you explain the whole career journey. Can you delve a little deeper into it? Do you think that this is something really missing these days when we talk about getting into the bigger industry, getting ahead in the industry? Do you think so? I'm just curious. This is totally off the topic, but I really wanted to delve into it because this is really something that came across from the conversation.
Missing, I think it's actually what this industry is built off of, right? I think every person that I have really ever talked to that has grown within this industry probably started off as a student working at a property. Like I think most people who are here by accident, and that's actually what makes it the coolest thing. I know Brian was an RA at one point, who is our COO. Diana, she has experience being on site. I mean, there's so many people in this industry that came from that place. And so I think that's actually the backbone of the student housing leadership team, or like people who know like what it was like on site themselves.
And when we talk about building this legacy business for student housing and building this legacy business where everything is centered around students, how do you actually create a brand voice, which is not just any other student housing? What is that essential brand voice to B.HOMS, where we are trying to build an experience that differentiates it from other communities?
Yeah, absolutely. I really love this. So we B.HOM just became its own entity back in October, right? So October was really when we were like, okay, we're gonna do our own thing here. And we had to establish the foundation of who we were, right? Because that didn't exist at this point. And so we started by creating our mission, vision, and values. We flew all of our leadership team, regionals and up, right, out together. And we sat in a room for 2 days and we really dug into like, what do we want to be known for? What do we want the experience to be? Who do we want to be? And I think most of the time when you join a company, those things already exist, right? And so maybe you're either asked to adapt to them or maybe you applied there because they already existed and that fit with what you were looking for. But at its inception here at B.HOM, all of our leadership team got to give a piece of our heart into making the values. So I think that's super special. And our first value is people first service, which means every decision that we make starts with the resident experience and works backwards, right? So you're going to see that in how we communicate and how we're responding and how we're training our teams that we need to be having genuine connections with residents. We really don't want it to feel transactional, right? We know this is a business. We know, why we're doing this. We all have to make money to put a roof over our heads, but we don't want the students to feel like that. We really want them to feel real. And so yeah.
No, I mean, I'm gonna pick up from the point where you said that while yes, everybody has to make money, but that should not reflect into something transactional when you're actually inviting a student into your communities.
Yeah. Yeah.
How difficult do you think that is? Because when we make that as our guideline, as our North Star, this is very, very impressive because then you know that everybody's heart is in the right place. But sometimes I feel, and this is something I spoke with Jason and Elena as well, and in fact, Teddy, when he came on the podcast last time, it's that
Yeah.
you guys are at such a critical juncture where every decision you take it impacts really fast. So that decision to impact is very less in this industry, where
Yeah.
any decision that we take at a category level, any decision that we take at a policy level, any decision that we take at an amenity level, the impact is really, really fast. How do you manage that?
Mhm.
How do you train the teams on the ground for that? How do you manage those expectations for that? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, first, I think it goes back to our first value, right? So people first, all
People,
the decisions that we're making are with the people in that are our team members, but also the people on site, right? So we are making these decisions for some reason. I think one of the biggest things with change, right? We call them change champions. Can you champion the change that you are rolling out? And you have to understand the why. I think some leaders roll things out and they're just like, this is what we're doing because as a company, this is we were making the decision, you need to do it now. And I think we're missing the point of like explaining the why. And I think even with our prospects and our residents, you can explain the why. They're so smart and knowledgeable now about like business with AI and everything, right? They look up everything. So it's like meet them where they are and be transparent about why you're doing what you're doing, from a policy standpoint to making changes on site to at least, I mean, with all the expectations, I think so long as you are transparent and you're explaining the why well, it should make sense.
and I think this is exactly going into the whole ideology of how to engage students today when everything is distracting, right? The attention span, I know it's cliche and it's cheesy, but the attention span is very less. I mean, you are fighting for every time you're probably explaining about the brand, or you are advertising, or you're even creating an initiative. The pressure to be different is very high these days, right? And I think Gen Z, in a lot of respect, has raised that standard that you cannot have just a pizza night and call it engagement, right? You cannot just have certain goodies distributed across the hall and say that, oh, we did that on Easter. So when that kind of challenge comes across, how do you think the community managers, how do you think the building managers are tackling this? How are they, what are some of the interesting initiatives they're coming across so that, hey, we are not doing it for the heck of it. We are really doing it because B.HOM, people first service is what we believe in. And this is how we are trying to design everything. Can you throw some light on
Yeah.
that? How do you guys managing that?
Yeah, I think it's a trickle down, right? We can't roll something out that we don't believe in, which means we also need to be present. So, talking about our general managers on site, we don't want them to just set pizza out in the hallway and then go back into their office, right? Because that's the opposite of really creating this brand and having face forward. So, we want them to be out there and engaging with the residents. We should be using these times as a way to have conversations with them and get to know them and maybe not have it be so business-like and more so an authentic connection that they're making. I remember we have a property in Eugene called the Hayward, and we were up there visiting. And they got a new leasing manager and AGM, and Brandon, he's been the GM there for some time. And I remember sitting there and everybody was bringing their dogs in. And the first place that they would come in every time is they would walk directly to the AGM's office. The AGM would knew the dog's name and the resident's name, gave the dog a treat, and then they would leave. And it was just like over and over again. And I was just like, this is so impressive that this person knows every single person's name. I was just like so impressed. They are currently 85% ahead where they were last year pre-lease. They are almost 100% in Eugene. It's almost 800 leases ahead. And I don't think that the connections that that team is making is a coincidence, right? Like it's all connected. I think them having those real relationships with these residents is what has push them to be higher than they've ever been previously because of those new relationships that they're building. So I think it's all connected, right? All of this is connected. What is your reputation score? How good are your Google reviews? Are people attending your events? Are people taking care of their apartments? It all connects to like, do they care about the people in the office? They're more likely to take care of their apartment and pay their rent on time and attend your events and leave you a positive review if they know your name and they have some familiarity with you. I think, again, it's all connected.
And I think part of the reason a lot of the times you hear these stories where your particular property or property managers or regions are suddenly ahead where they were last year, it's almost never just the technology. It is almost never, I say, but a lot of the times it boils down to the basics when we talk about engaging with the students at the right time. It's about managing their issues at the right time, also kind of looking at things slightly differently than just a transaction of leases. So, but that also brings me to the point that you've been in these communities before, right? You said that your career started at these communities. What would you say change? And this is my favorite question because I know it's cliche that everybody asks what has changed, but what it helps me is to understand when I talk to somebody who has spent, say, 3 decades or 2 decades, then they give me a very different story. But you know that at least 2 cycles of technologies changed before you. So what would you say
Mm.
the difference is between 2014 and 2026 when somebody is trying to enter into student housing right out of college? What is that difference like?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, technology, right? And I think the other part of it is because of technology, their expectations of the quickness of the interaction has changed. You think about, when you talk about the marketing side of things, you have 10 seconds, right? You have 10 seconds to grab their attention. That's what they say. And so when it comes to are you the quickest to follow up, they want to be able to do the whole interaction online. There a lot of times they're not even wanting to come in for a tour. They want to try to, or they want to be able to see everything without having to step on site. Now, parents are another story, right? A lot of times the parents are dragging them inside because they're like, we need to go see it. But a lot of it is they want it to all be on their cell phone. Beginning to end, they want it to be on their cell phone. They want to be able to pay the rent on their cell phone. They want to be able to put work orders in. Everything should just be seamlessly on a phone and it should be quick for them to get responses. The other unique side of that, though, is they still want a human connection. So it's like I think a lot of us are right now trying to balance the AI can be super helpful, right? Especially with getting answers to people really quickly or bridging the gap of technology. But it also, you have those people who immediately are like, I just want to talk to a human. Like we still have students that expect to just talk to a human. There was a panel at LeaseCon. They pick students from a few different properties that come and they get interviewed, and AI came up in one of those questions, if I don't remember incorrectly. And if I remember correctly, they said that they wanted to talk to a human. Like that was like what
Wow.
they kept pointing to. They were like, we could tell it was AI and we just wanted to speak to a human. So I think there's still that part of it. And then I think the other part of the technology piece is they are so much more educated, right? So one of the people that was at that interview, she said, I had already looked them up on Reddit. I had already looked them up on Instagram and made sure that I saw what their pool looked like. And like that was what I wanted to be. I'd already looked at their Google. And so they'd already done all of the research before they even reached out. And so if they've already done all that research before they're connecting with us, they're probably ready to go. They're not wanting to us to walk through every little piece of the puzzle because they already put it together. They just want to sign a lease now. I think the other side of it too, we talk about this all the time. We have our teams go to ChatGPT and say, I'm moving to Athens, Georgia to go to the University of Georgia. Where should I live? And it will, pump out all the reasons, scrub the internet on where you should live and why you shouldn't live there and all of those things, and really diving into like what technology can do to sway people's decisions nowadays. It is a different world.
It is a very different world, and rightly so, in a way. I think, to an extent, I feel that it has leveled that playing field for someone who probably knew nothing about Atlanta. And today, they can probably talk more about Atlanta than somebody who might have never stepped out of Atlanta. You see the irony there, right? But
Yeah.
but I feel when we talk about the intervention in technology, this is a common thing. So I've been coming to Interface a couple of years now, and I always see there is a panel of AI, and we talk about the advancements in AI. And
Yeah.
uh, I also have been to NMHC, and we talk about AI there as well. I have never been to LeaseCon, probably next on the list then. But
Yes.
at the same time, when I talk to a lot of our partners, whether it's Landmark, whether it's Asset, whether it's ACC, whether it's B.HOMs now, I understand there is a drive for the technology part of it, but I also discover that a lot of the leaders like you know that there is a line between how much technology can help and how
Yeah.
much it still has to be human. Can you tell me that, if we have to say divided by functions, which of the functions today you think that AI has been super helpful? It has just changed how things are, and then there are some functions that you do not want to touch. There's a red line there. Hey, we do not touch that at all. Can you help me understand that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think AI is really great in terms of understanding your processes that are working, right? So there are now data automation systems that you can put into place to understand, okay, a student started their application. This is how long it's taking them. This is when we're seeing them take too much time. Maybe they're backing out at this one point, and now we need to adjust our whole process because this is the one trigger point that's scaring people away. I think all of that is helpful, obviously, with, SEM and PPC and all the digital ads and how abundant that has gotten. Those are all really wonderful things. I think the areas where, and I don't know if it's fear on my end or if I think that the human connection part is still super important, but like the in-person touring, we are seeing some people that are doing the self-guided tours. Those are becoming more prevalent, especially in the student world. I think conventionally that used to be pretty standard, but we are now starting to see it be a pretty normal thing. I think I don't want to mispronounce the name, but I think it agentless. We did a demo with them and it seemed amazing. Like I remember thinking, okay, like I can get on board with this, but
Wow.
it's scary to like take out the people, It's like, and if you think back, I'm here now because I was a CA, right? And the whole concept of hiring community assistants was that you were hiring your demographic, right? So
Yeah.
they are the subject matter expert of your business, right? So we can sit here and talk about this all day, but the students, which is why I think student panels are so important, they actually know what's going on. They actually know what they're looking for. And what marketing tools are going to work and how AI is actually making them feel and all of that. And so I think if you ever start getting to the point where we're taking away the CAs because AI is stepping in to like handle all of your tours and your leasing and automation and all of those things, that we're going to lose the knowledge that we have of our demographic that we're kind of working with. But we've seen AI work super well in helping with rent delinquency and maintenance requests and, helping them work through those things. So I do think, again, it's a give and take, right? It's a positive and a negative. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there should not be any. I ask this from everyone, and believe me, at Amber as well, we also kind of figure out what is where we can actually go AI native and where we can actually still stick to being AI enabled. And that's a very, very fine line there. But I imagine the dilemma and the challenge at your end, especially in an industry where, as I said, the decision to impact is so low, it's going to be a crazy pressure. So, what are some of the key practices that you guys believe in besides people first service when you hire a new community manager? What is the North Star for them? Hey, this is something you never deviate on, and the life would be super fun. What is that? At least it'll be super easy to deal with your demographic. So, what is that byline for a community manager at B.HOMES?
That is a good question. I would say like accountability and transparency. Accountability is our second pillar for our core values, but we have a very involved ownership group, which I think is an amazing thing. But because of that, they know what's going on. You know what I mean? Like they know what's going on at their properties and they'll be able they just know. And so I think it's really important that they just own up to what's going on at their site. I think problem first solutions, you need to be coming with, if you have an issue, what is the solution to fix it? Don't just come to the table with a problem. And I think always remembering, again, I hate to harp on the people first
Yeah.
thing, but at the end of the day, we're providing housing, right? We're providing people a place to live and to feel safe. And their main job there is to provide the housing, but they're also there to take care of their team too. So, like, what are we doing to make sure that we don't have turnover on site and take care of our team and not have turnover with our residents? I think all of that kind of goes hand in hand. And just being really intentional about the decisions that you're making, right? So, why are we doing what we're doing and how is that going to help? Yeah.
I think, first of all, and this is my best part about all these conversations, and partly the reason we started this was that A, we wanted to understand how we can put ourselves into your shoes when we are talking to students and we are making sure they understand the culture behind certain communities better. They understand what is the value proposition for one community to another. So, whenever I've spoken to anybody, whether it was Elena, whether it was Teddy, whether it was Jason, now it's you, uh, I always get to learn something. I'm gonna be stealing this people first service thing, and I'm gonna be writing somewhere and tagging you, of course, but I'm gonna be stealing this a lot because this in itself is a very simple philosophy in 3 words that tells you
Yeah.
anything and everything. But I also want to understand the other side of it, how crazy it is to actually stick to it in times when you are catering to a demographic that changes its preferences probably every year. Now that has happened
Yeah.
to us though, because we thought certain philosophies work last year, but they stopped working this year. I mean, there's always a case where probably the booking velocity changes, the leasing velocity changes. Sometimes you understand that there are a lot of kids on the fence this year than they were last year. So,
Hmm.
how hard it is to actually still stick to people first service? Is there any trick in the bag? And I'll keep on drilling that for it because I would want that. Yeah, because at least I would want that at Amber, we learn a lot, but I'll keep on drilling down on it. Is there any special trick in your bag which you would like to share with people who are entering into student housing today? anybody who's want to make a career this year, what does people
Yeah.
first service mean for them?
Yeah. Well, first, I would just say if you're wanting to enter into student housing, buckle up, okay? Because it is a ride. I think it's interesting that you keep saying, the shift in student housing, because yes, it's changed so much. I mean, if you think about in the past 6 years, we've had COVID. Then we had the coming back year from COVID, which I think is where that big shift happened with people wanting the nicest and the most luxurious and the craziest amenities, right? Because they were stuck in their house for so long and they wanted to just have the best of the best. And then we had the FAFSA issue, which I don't know that we really ever understood the extent of maybe how that impacted the business. And now we're really seeing a shift toward technology and AI and affordability. Affordability is one of those big key words that we're really, pushing into. And so going back to the people, it's you really need to understand what they need. And this is one of those things where I feel like we can't use AI to figure that out. This is one of those things where we really have to ask them. Like, this is why community assistants and resident assistants and the student team members that work at our communities are so important, is because I can't really speak for what a college kid want nowadays. Because when I was a college kid, I just wanted a free place to live. Like, I was just happy to have a bed and an apartment. And nowadays they are looking for so much more. They're looking for community and all of that. And I think if you're wanting to enter into student housing, it's important to remember that like you're you're affecting people's lives essentially, right? Like the experience that you give them on site is truly, if you actually get them for their full 4 years, which is what you hope, right? When you get somebody in, especially as a freshman at universities that don't have live-on requirements, there's this dream that if you get them as a freshman and you maintain that relationship, that you're going to have that person will live there for 4 years, and that's probably some of the most pivotal time of their lives. And so you actually have an opportunity to shift the way that they view life. And so yeah, I think just really, one of my old bosses, she's really wonderful, she used to say we're not doing brain surgery, and I do think that's important to remember, but we are providing people with a home, right? And that is still important. And so I think just making sure that you are putting like your heart and your soul, like, and that's why actually I think I like student housing so much, is you talk to a lot of the people who are in leadership positions in this industry and they like actually care. Like this isn't just a job for them. This is something that they really have care for. And I think that's why I tell people all the time I'm a student housing lifer. I think I will be in student housing forever because it's something that I really care about, like I can remember my first community and my first community manager. I can remember interviewing for that first job. I can remember all the people I still worked with and the experience that I had. And maybe not everybody has that same experience, but for the few who do, you actually are shaping them, which I think is really cool.
No, I actually think any industry, whenever, and I feel that student housing, though everybody says it's decades old or anything like that, I feel we're just starting. We are entering into an era which will bring this industry onto a very different map altogether. But before
Yeah.
I move to my next segment, I actually am going to write down the brain surgery part that your old boss told you and how
Yes.
critical it is to always relax and understand, hey, it's the basics and you are not really doing any brain surgery. But I would
Yes.
like to move to our next segment, and that next segment is probably a very personal for me when I ask everyone, and I would love to know your story as well. You have told me that you're a student housing lifer now, right? But there must be some moment in your career where you would have said that, hey, now this is what I'm gonna do. This is it. I've found my calling, and this is what I'm gonna do. Can you
Yeah.
pinpoint a time in this timeline of your career that that where you thought that, hey, I'm gonna do student housing? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because I know exactly when it was too. So I was, like I said, a CA. I can remember when I was interviewing for the job. Again, this is 2014, so things were a little different back then. But I was applying to be a community assistant, and this was back when you you worked for free rent, right? So you never got paid. You just worked 15 hours a week and you got to live there for free. And I remember the interview was a panel interview. So they invited all the students that applied to be a CA. We were all sitting in a hotel conference room and they made us do the exercise of there's 12 people on a sinking boat and you have to pick the six people that get to live and the six people that you know and we had to as a collective agree on who was going to live, and so they used that exercise to watch who led, who sat back, who had their own opinions. It was really awesome, and I can remember at the end everybody left, and if you know me at all, which you'll probably get to know me, I cry like a lot. Like I just, and it's not a, I don't, I've kind of learned it's a bad thing, not a bad thing, but it's just who I am. If you talk to anybody, they'll be like, oh yeah, Shelby, she's just a crier. And at the end of the interview, I like walked back up and I started crying. And I was like, I really want this job. I was like, I promise I'll do a good job. Like I'll really care about it. And thankfully I got the call and I got the job and it was like this amazing thing. And then fast forward, I went to school for physical therapy. So like this is completely not in the realm of what I want to do. And I was starting to realize that I liked it. I was like, whoa, this is fun. Like I enjoy it. And then I became a leasing professional, which is like a full-time leasing person. And then the leasing manager job opens. And at this point, I had like met my regional because they had visited and all of that. And I remember thinking, I want to do this. Like I want to be a full-time leasing manager, but I was a full-time student also. And so I talked to my community manager at the time and I was like, I would like to write a letter to my regional and basically like explain why I think I can do this. And what I think I can bring to the table, and like hopefully they will have faith in me. And so I did that. I wrote a letter. I was like, I really want this job. Here's how I will balance it. I can't work the normal 8 to 5, but I can do, my 40 hours this way. And her name was Lisa. She's an amazing person. And she gave me the job. And I remember thinking, holy cow, look, I could cry right now. Somebody believes in me. Like somebody besides me believes in me. And that's amazing. I don't know, I'm gonna cry. I'm so sorry. But it's just people in your life can have such a change. And like, I probably wouldn't be here today if Lisa didn't like believe in me to do it. And that's happened twice in my life. I'm so sorry that I'm crying. But there's so many people in this industry have had such an impact on my life. And I always tell people like you are your own best advocate, right? Like you have to get yourself where you want to go. Nobody knows what you want, but there's also something so special with having somebody at the table in a room that you're not in advocating for you. And it's still important to remember that they believe in you because of the work that you have done, right? Like it is still them believing in what you have already done. But it's so important to advocate for what you want and always ask because you're the only one who knows. So like you got to keep doing it. But yeah, that was when I was like, holy cow, I think I could do this. When I got the job and I was on site and I was just doing my thing and I was like, I think I actually have like a passion for this. And so here we are,
Wow.
12 years later, and
Wow.
we're still doing it.
Wow. I mean, you can't see it really, but I'm really stunned. First of all, thank you so much for sharing such a vulnerable moment, and not many people can do that. And first of all, it's not a weakness at all. I mean, and because to be that honest in a conversation, it takes more power than to not be, first of all. So thank you so much, Shelby, for saving that moment. I want to give a very special shout out to Lisa because Lisa made this happen. And there's a reason that we are sitting here today. And what Lisa did is basically built a champion for the industry. I mean, I met a lot of people in student housing. I can say I've met a lot of people, yeah, but there are very few champions like you who would really make you believe that this is. So you remember we were talking about what moment it clicked for you. Right now,
Yeah,
this moment, I'm very sure you made it click for a lot of people, including me. Hey, this is the industry you want to be in for a long, long, long period of time. So
yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that moment. And yeah, that is going in the books for us. That is going in the
yeah.
books for
Sorry
us.
for crying. Oh my gosh, I'm so
No,
embarrassed. But thank you.
no, I'm genuinely telling you, it is very easy to glaze over that situation and probably pass through that. But being that honest and bringing that emotion in because you are passionate about that industry, it is impossible impossible to not be so attached. It is really impossible. So thanks for putting it out there. I'm very sure. Yeah, I mean, you have made some lifers along the way in these last 5 minutes. Believe me, you
I
have.
love
Believe me, you have.
that.
If I could, I would actually have a merch printed student housing lifer printed for you. And I'm
I
coming
love
to
that.
interface. I'm gonna bring it for you.
Okay, I love that. I'll hold you to
Yeah,
it.
please do. Please do. I'm telling you, there are a couple of things that I picked up during these conversations, which which you would normally assume would come in probably while doing business and discussing business percentages, stuff like that. But the reason we wanted to start this was that, hey, there is a business in student housing way beyond numbers, way beyond percentages. At the end of the day, it's people lives who are connecting with other people's lives and making sure that anything that has to go right goes right and not the other way around, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we'll do that. With that, I also want to touch base something that that would actually help a lot of people along the way. If you could give a shout out to a person besides Lisa now, but
Yeah.
a shout out to a person or a project or an initiative in the whole 12 years that you've been, or 13 years you've been into student housing, can you pinpoint that out for our audience so that we can also learn something from that? Yeah.
Okay, my internet cut out. I'm so sorry. You said to give a shout out. Will you repeat it?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm saying
I'm
that
so sorry.
no, no, that's okay. That's okay. Technology, as I said, it goes wrong when you don't want it to go wrong.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that if you could give a shout out to a person or a project or an initiative in the last 12 years or so, would you like to do that? Would you like to highlight that for our audience, for our guests, so that we can also learn from that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is gonna just sound probably so cliche, but I need to shout out my current boss, right? Brian Shelengowski. He's the COO of B.HOM. Um, I we came from EDR together, Graystar together, so we've worked together for, this entire time really. And even through all my times at Be Home or at Graystar, we were on separate sides of the business, right? He was almost always on the fee side, third party management. I was almost always on the own side, but he was always my mentor, right? He was the person that I called when I didn't know what to do. I know that he always leads people first. Again, he is kind of our main reason why that is such a big part of who we are and our values. And so I knew that he would always, and he's just so logical and kind. I just knew that every advice he would give me was right. Like I don't know how else to explain that. And so he always helped me and guided me through my career journey and always believed in me and helped push me and advocated for me and all of those things. And I remember when he left Graystar, I mean, transparently, I genuinely never thought I would leave Graystar either, like ever. And so when he left Graystar, I remember it just being like this very shocking thing. I was like crying. I was like, this is unbelievable. Like, I don't, how are we going to handle this without you? All of those things. And then I started seeing like job openings and I was like, okay, like what if I left too? Like this is somebody that I trust. I genuinely don't think I would be here. No, I mean, I would not be here if it wasn't for Brian because it's one of those things where it's like that is so scary making such a life-changing career jump and to know that you are reporting to somebody that you have always trusted to give you the best piece of advice for yourself is so awesome. And so I remember seeing the VP of Sales and Marketing job open up and I remember thinking I probably am not qualified. Like that was my first thought. I probably do not belong there. But again, I really wanted it and I believed in myself, like I think I can learn to do anything. And maybe that is a terrible amount of confidence to have, but I genuinely think that like I'll figure it out almost every time. And so I called him and I was like, would you consider, like, would you please? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. And I remember I had to go through all the interviews and I had such a again, do I belong here feeling in my stomach? Like interviewing with Andrew Stark and Nate Fowler, who are our founders, and then Brian, now who's our COO, and being like, am I swimming in an ocean that is too big for me? And then just being like, okay, no, like I belong here. Like I can do this. I think it's a willingness to show up and care and really want what's best for the business. And Brian and I talk about that all the time, and that like we care, right? Like I think that's probably the biggest piece of the puzzle of why this all has been working out so well is because we really care about the people and the business and the people that we work with and wanting it to be successful and everybody that we interact with. Like, and that is so important. And so, yeah, probably just Brian and like his belief in me and his advocacy for me and his ability to like let me learn and figure it out and make decisions and grow. And I am absolutely terrified of public speaking, and he knows that. And so he keeps putting me on, asking for me to be on panels. So I'm talking at Interface as a panelist. I was at LeaseCon as a panelist. I'm sweating just thinking about it, to be honest. But he's one of those leaders who like can help you identify where you need to grow and push you to be better. So yeah, that's who I would say.
I think you will find more than enough champions in the crowd in the interface, including me there.
Awesome.
So
Um,
you don't have to worry about that. And I
thank
think
you.
somebody really said it right, that the difference between terrible and confidence is the amount. So you have a terrible amount of confidence, and that's what landed you there. And I don't think so. Anybody can describe it any better than this. But that also takes me to another point where when you discover these moments of change, when you discover these moments of risk, because it takes even to put yourself out there, it's a very big leap of faith that you take, and it's a very big risk as well in a way where when you're working in a company like Greystar, do I move out? Do I move out into a different ocean and a bigger ocean? Do I do that? But when you think about that, is there any moment or is there any trend while dealing in student housing where you were absolutely shocked that you thought, oh, I never thought it this way? Has there been a moment that has surprised you so much that you were like, oh, I never thought it that way? Or you are at that stage now that nothing surprises you anymore?
Yeah, I feel like right now I'm at the stage where nothing surprises me anymore, but I think back to Jennifer King was who I worked with the most at Gray Star, and she's a phenomenal leader there. And she was the one who always told me, because I'm as you can tell, an emotional person. I'm just dramatic. I think, if you're in sales and marketing, you have to be to fit in, right? But I remember calling her and I was like, kind of freaking out about this thing that had happened, and that was when she said she would always either say, we're not doing brain surgery, or we're not sending rockets into space.
Okay.
She'd be like, it's not that serious. It's okay. Like, we're gonna figure it out. And I think to this day, when, I go to freak out, I actually literally have it written down on a piece of paper right in front of me. When I go to freak out or I'm like unwell or like something, I just like sit down and be like, this is actually not life or death. Like there are people who are literally operating on someone's brain today. And that is not what I'm doing. And it's okay to breathe and remember that like the worst thing that can happen is that we're going to figure it out, right? Like when you really think through it, so that one has always stuck with me and I can remember it profoundly when she told me. So like I think that is just like trying to like ground yourself and remember, yes, what we do is important. This is not to discredit the importance of what we do, right? Because it is important, but to also remember that it is not that serious and it's going to be okay. Like it always is going to be okay.
I think that kind of attitude or that kind of let's say mantra actually brings you to a point where you are able to be very fluidic in terms of adapting to the industry changes. You are able to also uh, incentivize taking care of the residents because you know that even if it goes out of the hands, we know we can figure it out. It also kind of doesn't make you a very it doesn't always make you on defense or doesn't put you on defense when you are talking to students, their parents, because you know there's nothing that they can ask or probably inquire about that would be out of the box that we can't handle that. I think that kind of
Exactly.
fluidity, when you say that we're not doing brain surgery, that actually does more good than anything else. because then that makes you very fluid and you're able to literally float and make decisions on the fly. I think
Yeah.
that's a very, very important lesson as well. Because yeah,
Yeah.
let's not overcomplicate things. There are already a lot of complications. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we've been through late, I think one of the harder things I'd ever been through at Graystar, I was specifically over new developments and we had a late delivery. And if you've been on new developments and you have a late delivery, you know that that's about the worst thing that could happen. And I remember thinking like, there's no way that we will recover from this. Like, I just, on the reputation standpoint, are people trusting us or any of that? And we leased up to 100% the next year, no problem. Because it really is about how well you handle it and how transparent you are and going back to explaining the why behind things and just communicating with them. People just do not like being left in the dark. And I think as a provider of housing, the other thing is we talk about this a lot is they should never have to follow up with us for answers, right? They should already have been well aware of what was going on and given those answers before. And so yeah, I think the fluidity thing is a perfect kind of topic on that, and I love that. So yeah.
No, I think that is something really helps to kind of being very attentive and being in the present as well when you're making those decisions. Uh, so, Shelby, this whole thing typically when we wanted to do the segments and we wanted to invite our guests over and we wanted to understand from them was also in a way uh, bring their perspective forward for the Gen Z, that what it means for you today, what is 2026 looking like from B.HOM's perspective for Gen Z now? So would you like to throw some light on the fact that what are some of the initiatives you are taking this year? What are some of the key drivers you think will shape the industry in the next, say, 8 to 10 months? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think our niche, I would say, is getting like class B buildings and doing multi-million dollar renovations in them so that we're kind of sitting at that sweet spot of we are the affordable product in the market, right? Because we're the class B, class C community, but giving the prospects the aesthetic that they want, right? Because they do have, I mean, LV Collective, they always come to my mind when I think they build the most beautiful buildings. And you just look at them and you're like, wow, like I just feel so good, looking at it. And you know that the prospects are feeling the same thing. And so we're trying to find that sweet spot, right? Of like, where can we build this aesthetic that they're looking for, but be that affordable product? And so I think we have like 40 million in renovations budgeted just for 2026. So that's really something that we're leaning into, and that I'm really excited about. I think the other thing is just something that we're working with our teams a lot on is authenticity in marketing. And so again, AI is such a big, scary thing sometimes, specifically when it comes to like generated images and content and all of that. And we really have been telling our teams lean into who you actually are and who is on site. I think the prospects knowing who the leasing manager are and the general manager are and the maintenance team are actually goes a long ways. And so we've really pushed them into like making sure that everybody is front forward on building those relationships. Again, making sure it's not transactional and that it's like a real experience that they're having. And yeah, I think again, we're also still balancing, which I think everybody is, the balance of AI and human connection. I think as time passes, we'll all it's all trial and error at this point, I think, for most people. So we're all just figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And I think really going in, 2027 and beyond, we'll kind of have found what piece AI is going to play foundationally in what student housing will look like in the coming years. And so really excited to kind of see how this year goes. And I think it's important to remember B.HOM just became a thing in October 2025, really. So we're still working to establish ourselves. We have our first conference this year, and it's like the road to B.HOM and really introducing who B.HOM is to our team and making sure that they know the why behind our philosophies and our foundation. And so, yeah, we have a lot of awesome things coming for 2026 that we're really excited about.
No, I think a couple of things stand out for me, and I think a lot of this would be takeaways for our viewers as well, for the audience as well, would be the authenticity in the marketing that you talked about. Because again, when you talk about marketing initiatives, you talk about a lot about property tours, you talk about amenity tour, you talk about maybe onboarding process, or maybe how that everything looks good on document or something like that. But rarely people talk about know your building manager, know your maintenance manager. These are the people who are really, really are very important cogs in that machine, who are literally getting these machines live, up and ready every day, every hour. So that
Mhm.
itself shows the brand architecture that B.HOMES is really trying to build. Because
Yeah.
authenticity in marketing cannot only be about your performance campaigns or your maybe digital ads. It has to really, really kind of permeate into the whole foundation of it. I'm sure anybody who's listening to it would be getting the same vibe that I'm getting right now. But yeah, this actually brings us to the close of the segment, Shelby. I know I've taken 45 minutes of yours, but yeah, we try to make sure that everybody is able to understand what the whole brand of B Homes like, and how what does that mean for Gen Z. But before I let you go, just one last thing I want to really understand from you. If you wanted to today build what is like, so there are always moonshots, right, where there are always certain shots that you never take as a brand ambassador or brand manager or branding leader or an operations leader. Is there anything that you have in your books that, hey, let me get there and I'm going to launch it, and we want to do that? Is there any moonshot in your bag that you really want to take but waiting for the right time? Do you want to announce it today? Do you want to take that
Um,
moment?
I don't even think I have that, Avi. We are still, I think, in such the early age, like the early stages of really creating that Be Home brand. I think, when you look in the student housing space, or, I think back and you always want to be the Hilton, right? Like you want to be the Hilton of the student housings. But like, how do you do that and establish that? And we're still working on the growing, right? I say only. We're 42 communities, and that's something that we're really proud of. But
Absolutely.
we're trying to grow by like double in the next 2 years. And so we have a lot of growth to be made. And I think something that we are really focusing on is back to the basics, right? And I think a lot of people are seeing this, and that like if you can do your basics well, you will be successful. And so right now our main focus is that like we have got to get our basics right. I don't know that I have a moonshot right now, but I've got to start thinking about that though. I like that. But yeah, I think right now we're just working on the basics.
No, I think basics are damn right, and yeah, this all we keep on fishing for these things where we can always see things that are bigger than what we know market is, we know the industry is. So these moonshots are really just inspiring shots for us. So we try to
Yeah,
understand that, hey, these are the people who have spent so much time in the industry. They are lifers, as you say. So these guys gotta be thinking things that are like years ahead. But I think the market has changed so much, the dynamics have changed so much, and there are so many variables in the market today that if you can stick to the basics and execute them really, really well, I think that's what something Jason mentioned in a couple of conferences and during the show as well, that it's not that hard. You just have to execute the basics, talk to students, talk to them day in, day out, and you'd understand everything that is there to know. And I think you just
exactly.
mentioned the same thing. We're gonna take it as a note. And on that super note, Shelby Sladick, everyone, uh, B Homes, I think cannot you cannot actually put this better, where the people first service kind of brand. People first service is really, really kind of at the center of everything. When you talk about B.HOM's strategy, when you talk about B.HOM's as a brand, and Shelby, you have helped us to understand that way better today. And I'm sure anybody who's ever viewing this would be able to understand that even better. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for taking out the time today. And yeah, I'm gonna get that t-shirt out and
I love it.
I'm gonna
I
bring it
love
back.
it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much for having me on. And I'm so excited. I'll see you in a few weeks at
Yes,
Interface, right? So,
yes. In a couple of days. Yes, we're gonna see each other.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All
Thank you
right.
very much. I appreciate it.
Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye.